Thanks for coming.
Well, they're all my family.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have a... I look in the
Oh, yes, I do.
We're sure glad to be here. Now, I know that these guys are the KIs.
Yeah, the outcasts.
This is a KE, 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 KE. So, for this part of the room, they will have descended from these people, and you're going to have to research where you descended from and what their story is that got them over here. Okay? But this is probably similar. Okay. I want to tell you that everything that I'm presenting to you are the words of these two people. And I'm going to refer to them as Arick and Armenag. And I want to emphasize how I pronounce that. Grandpa, this guy right here, he always said Grandma's name Arick, a very guttural Arick. And she always pronounced his name Armenag, with a neg on the end. So, just, you remember that, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so today we're going to talk about this. Now I'm going to ask to go around the room, and you're all going to get a chance to read. If you don't want to, just hit the guy next to you. And you'll probably get several times to read based on the number of people here. So, right here are two QR codes that will take you directly to the information that I'm presenting, meaning the original source, which is Grandpa's autobiography by Nephi, his son, called Ekti Ekti, and then Grandma's autobiography, which is her history. So if you know how to use QR codes, right? Just take these two and it'll take you right there. And I encourage you to read the information yourself. Read it. I have left out so many details because we just don't have the time. But the gist of it we'll present today. Okay. I just told you all this, so if you want to take a picture of that, you can, or you can come up and take it off of that. That's Grandma's. Okay. This was Armenag and Arick in their early 20s. You might say they just sort of got off the boat and arrived. And this is Armenag and Arick in their 80s. Now these are the people that I knew. I did not know them, obviously, when they were that age. So what's wonderful about this presentation today is we're actually going to get to see a little bit about the fact that they were young people. They were Steele's age at one point, you know, falling in love, kissing over the temple altar. I mean, things you never think of Grandma and Grandpa doing at this age. Although I did see them peck at each other once or twice. All right, this is Arick's journey to Zion. And we're going to start out, Mike, when you start reading that.
Sure. From the time my father, Nashon Kikor Kezerian, got his passport, up to the time we started for America, we were very busy. Father had to sell everything before we left. That year we had the biggest crop of wheat that we ever had. Father sold all that wheat, and on the last night we were in Armenia, he sold his dry farm too, almost giving it away. Several told him how foolish it was to sell it for such a trifling price. Father told them, "What little I get from my farms will be mine, but the time will come when you will not be able to sell anything you have, but will run for your lives." Father's prophecy came to pass about 13 years later, when a great massacre took place in Zara and in all of Turkey, and thousands of Armenians lost their lives.
So you all have heard of the massacre, is that correct? Well, these stories are about, these occurred just a few years before that happened. Okay, so keep that perspective in mind.
Oh, yeah. The memories of our parting with family brought many tears. But inwardly, we were happy. We knew we were going to Zion, and we knew that it was such an important and necessary step for our future. And Isaiah 5:26-27. And he, meaning God, will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and he will speak unto them from the end of the earth. And, behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. None shall be weary nor stumble among them. None shall slumber nor sleep. Neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken.
Are you familiar with this prophecy of Isaiah? This is right out of the Bible. I didn't make it up. It's also in the Book of Mormon. And this is the part right here. This right here. None shall be weary nor stumble. As we go through this story today, I want to emphasize that to you, that Grandma and Grandpa didn't get weary and they didn't stumble. They really did their part. Okay, Brett, you just stepped into it. Would you read that for us, please?
On Wednesday, October 8th, 1902, we started out in 2 wagons. I was 15 years old. Those of us on the journey were Father, Mishin Kezerian, Mother Rebecca, my brothers Haron and little Kirkwar, I'm saying this all badly, or George, and me, Arick.
Now, this little guy right here, he died when he was just 4 years old in Murray, and his grave is in the Murray City Cemetery. And I could take you right there and show you where it is. It's a very sweet experience. Grandma spoke of that often, how she mourned the loss of her little brother, that he had no chance, he had no opportunity. But he crossed over the ocean and got to America, but was not able to fulfill that dream.
David, would you pronounce his name for us again? Little, I've heard it pronounced Kirkor, is that right? Or
Kirkor.
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 Okay.
Kirkor.
Okay,
But they called him George.
okay.
Steele?
Sure. At noon the next day, we arrived at Sivas and stayed at the home of Mother's aunt, Lucia Shabian, grandfather Migogo Sharanian's youngest sister. It was Lucia's husband, a minister, who by chance met Elder Ferdinand F. Hinsey in the marketplace. Elder Hinsey stayed in their home, and it was Lucia's husband who was the first to be converted and baptized a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, Elder Hinsey. It was also Lucia's husband who sent Elder Hinsey to Zara, to my grandfather, Nigogos
Turn left onto
Shurin.
3300
No
South.
need to tell the rest.
So if you're familiar with the conversion of the Armenians, the first conversion, that would have been Gogo Sharanian. And when she says there's no reason to tell the rest, it's because she's presuming that you all understand it. So that means you've got to go study it if you don't understand it. Okay. Diane?
While at Siva's, Father bought us shoes, the very first pair of shoes I had in my 14 years. They were high tops with bottoms and laces and looked like men's shoes.
Do you have any 14-year-old girls in here? No? Well, if you were a girl and presented with these shoes, how would you feel about it? Feel a little weird, wouldn't it? And yet, these shoes were the very first Grandma ever had, and she was 14 at the time. Okay. Rachel?
After many days of travel, we finally arrived at Samsun, a large seacoast city, and stayed in a hotel for over 2 weeks waiting for the sea to calm. Eventually, we boarded a big ship and traveled on the waters of the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea for 8 days. Along the way, we saw Constantinople in Turkey and Mount Vesuvius in Italy. We continued on to Marseille, France, where we landed on November 4th, 1902.
So this is Constantinople, and this is Mount Vesuvius, in case you weren't sure. Now this shows their track, or their voyage. Zara is right here, and they went some by land here, sea obviously, all the way over to here to Marseille. And then they took a train from Marseille up to Paris and Boulogne, and that's where they boarded the big ship. And we'll get something on that here. Okay. Gail, what do you think?
From Marseille, we traveled by train to Paris, then Barcelona and the Atlantic seacoast, where we boarded a large ship, the SS Graf Walrus, on November 9, 1902, bound for America. As we just get touched by this story. As we boarded the ship, we walked from one story to another, but always going down and down until we came to what looked like the bottom of the ship. But no, it wasn't the bottom. There was another floor below us where the animals were kept. Our assigned place in the ship were third class. It was so dingy and damp, we slept in bunks stacked one on top of the other. The food was terrible, but we got along somehow. My little brother, Kierkegaard George, who was a little over a year old, started walking. He was sweet and healthy. After sailing the Atlantic Ocean for 12 days, we arrived in New York Harbor on November 20th, 1902. From there we went to Castle Gate, a historic 19th century circular fort located in Battery Park at the southern tip of Manhattan. Father exchanged our money into American dollars and bought our train tickets to Utah. An interpreter told Father that no food would be sold on the train and showed him how much food would be needed for a 5 days journey to Utah and what kinds of food were best to buy. Our food lasted for 4 days. Fortunately, we were without food for only just 1 day.
Okay.
From New York, we traveled by train to Utah. After 5 days, we arrived in Salt Lake City before noon on November 25th, 1902, a day before Thanksgiving. The snow was very deep, but the sun was warm and shining brightly.
Now this picture is probably what it'll look like. Not saying absolute, but probably what it looked like. Because the statue of Brigham Young was there, and the temple was already well established. So, you go down the main street right now in Salt Lake, and this is all different. It's just been refurbished. It's beautiful, but it doesn't look like this. Okay. So we start. Any kids want to read, or you want to pass on to your mom?
We were taken from the train station to the church's tithing office located on Main Street. They asked us if we knew of any elders. Father said he knew Elder Maycock. He was one of the missionaries who went to Palestine when Father did. In a little while, Elder Maycock arrived, and he and Father embraced. He then took us upstairs where an older man was assigned to bring us what we needed. He could not speak Armenian, but somehow we were able to communicate what we wanted. He left, and in a little while came back with a sack full of things to eat, plenty of steaks, bread, onions, salt, and other things. We were so famished. It had been many hours since we had anything to eat. That night, Mother cooked the food, and we all had our fill.
So I think Grandma's explanation here is probably being very demure. Because remember, she said earlier, their food lasted only 4 days. So they went a full day on the train with no food. They got off the train, now we're in Salt Lake. It was evening, so it's basically 2 days by my calculation, since they had actually had a decent meal. So that was the most they complained, which is pretty remarkable. Okay.
The next morning, Brother Hesse, the missionary who brought the gospel to Armenia, came to us and told us and took us to his home in Holiday. They had set a long table with all kinds of things to eat. His whole family was there, and they were quite a bunch. This was their Thanksgiving day, never having experienced it before. We didn't know just what kind of day it really was, or how important it was. as important to us as anyone else. And as the years went by, the day came even more and more precious to us. We hope our posterity will always honor that day in remembrance of us coming to Zion.
So I remember Thanksgiving, like you do too, at Grandma and Grandpa Kezerian's home. And it was a feast. And of course, this is not them, but I love this picture. This is easily depicts Thanksgivings I remember at Grandma's with some obviously Armenian treats. So I hope that we will do as Grandma suggested, that Thanksgiving will always have more meaning to us by knowing this story. It's not just about food, but it's about a time of Thanksgiving, and clearly they had that feeling as they arrived. Okay, this was Arick's family in America, so this was after they arrived. And this is little George. This is Arick. This is their brother Aaron, and this was Nishon. Nishon, anybody familiar with Nishon? He played a pivotal role in Armenians getting to America, and he had some significant responsibility in the church over there. And so again, check the QR code, it's all in there. All right, this is handsome Armenag. Who's next to read?
I spilled Lori from me, so
Okay.
last one.
Trina?
Yeah, okay. I stand and call Ekte Ekte, which means orphan lamb. They run to me and I hold a goat or sheep so they can nurse. If I don't, they will die. They know my voice and know that I am their shepherd.
So the reason that that phrase is important, and the reason it's on page 1 of Grandpa's autobiography, he always considered himself an orphan lamb. And he even used the word vagabond in his description. Not in a negative sense, but in the sense that a vagabond is wandering from one place to the other. We'll get into this a little bit later, but the reasons that Grandpa considered himself an orphan lamb is because he was an orphan in Armenia. And it happened because his father had died. And that set in motion all of the old traditions of the old country, as they used to say, where he now had no privilege, and the new husband booted him out on the street. So that's where he got, I'm an orphan.